Delhi is known for its parks and gardens, and we are here on this lovely Sunday afternoon enjoying a conversation around HR tech at Lodi Gardens. Now, over the past 2 weeks, we've been talking about disruptions and trends in the HR tech space 2020 and beyond. And one of the other things that we've also been talking about is how adoption is really critical in this entire ecosystem of HR tech startups. But today we are going to switch tracks, and the focus is going to be around what does it take for HR tech startups out of India to scale internationally. And to have that conversation, I have with me Ashok Kapoor. Ashok, glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Thomas.
Ashok is runs a company called Organizational Pivot. Is based out of Dubai, and his company focuses on scaling HR tech companies globally. And they also offer a host of HR advisory services. Now, incidentally, Ashok and I also attended HR Tech conference in Vegas, which was the mega event of HR Tech worldwide, which had over 500 exhibitors and over around 100 startups as well. Now, Ashok, clearly that was my first experience at a mega global event, and it was truly mind-boggling. The scale of that event. And also the fact that technology is moving so rapidly in the startup space, and there is so much of maturity now in a number of these platforms. And also the fact that these spaces are getting really crowded with so many players coming in. For instance, in the talent acquisition space alone, there were over 100 companies there. So clearly there are some huge challenges that are emerging on the landscape for Indian HR tech startups who are wanting to enter the US market. So what would be your guidance, to these companies?
Yeah, you're absolutely bang on, Thomas. There's lots going on right now in the HR tech space. In fact, after fintech, HR tech today attracts a maximum amount of VC money.
Yeah.
Just to give you some numbers to put this into context, in 2017 and 2018, over $6 billion went into HR tech.
Yeah,
and the median, seed funding was about 2 million at valuation of 8 million. So a lot of money available for people who have great ideas. Right. Now coming specifically, since starting Organization Pivot 2 years ago, I have had the opportunity visiting a number of tech conferences, both in India and in international markets.
Right.
But like you said, you called it mind-blowing. I'd call the Vegas experience a truly learning experience and an eye-opener.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of what Indian HR tech startups need to do to be successful internationally, I'll start with some basic, some really basic tips. First thing I'd like to compliment the Indian HR tech companies is that, hey, great ideas, very robust technologies, but where they tend to lose out is in their communication and presentation.
Sure.
Okay. At the base level, three things come to mind that I would like to share. Yeah. First, don't forget that you're now catering to an international audience, which is ethnically diverse. Okay. Ensure that the names, the language, the terms that you use are politically correct. Okay. Two, you are presenting a tech proposition. Okay, ensure that your presentation is slick and technically, comes across as a techie kind of state-of-art presentation. That's what they expect from you. Okay, and the third one clearly would be, and I'd say that's most important, is you've got to scale and you've got to be really quick, because there are people there who may also have the same idea as you, or will see, could actually take your idea and build on it. So the speed at which you innovate, the speed at which you add functionality to what you're offering, and the speed at which you scale becomes hugely critical to be successful.
Yeah, no, so I think absolutely very relevant points. The other thing that I wanted to touch upon was that, typically a lot of startups, whether they are from India or elsewhere, who are very keen on entering the US market, are often thinking about, incorporating a company there, raising capital in the US, and more often than not, having one of their co-founders actually relocate to the US to actually build and drive that business. Now, obviously that's very relevant in our context as well. Now, do you see this trend with a similar trend with HR tech startups out of India as well, who are keen on entering the US market?
Well, the reality is that to be considered a truly global company, you have to be in the US. Okay, that's a given.
Yeah.
Okay. However, I'd say that for Indian startups, most English-speaking markets are potential targets,
Right.
And I would include Singapore and the UAE, in addition to, of course, the US, UK, and you could even say some extent Australia. Okay, so clearly these are potential markets. At Vegas, I met a number of founders and co-founders from Israel, from South Africa, from various parts of Eastern Europe, as well as India, who've actually moved either the founder or the co-founder to be located in the US. Okay, popular locations being New York and San Francisco, but I see Chicago also as a potential, location with potential, given the number of American corporations that are headquartered in the Midwest. So clearly, you've got to be there on site. There is no easy way. A number of markets you could get away with partners. But given the size of the US opportunity, given the fact that you could actually, when you need the big bucks, your funding's probably going to come out of the US. Okay, you've got to be there in person.
Right, makes a lot of sense, Ashok. Now, Ashok, you've been in the Middle East market for a number of years, and you understand that market really well. Now, very often, and as you also mentioned earlier, a lot of Indian companies who have built a decent business in India, in the HR tech space, will probably look at venturing into the UAE as a first initial international market for them. Now, we obviously also know that the Middle East economy is perhaps not doing that well at this point in time. Also the fact that the employer-employee dynamics are very different from how it is in India. And also the fact that a lot of these companies in the Middle East have a preference for something from the West. So perhaps you can just throw light on how you see the market dynamics evolving in the Middle East currently, and what that actually means for an Indian HR tech startup.
On the economic front, I think most countries go through economic cycles. So I won't dive into that. But what I can tell you based on my experience in the Middle East, companies there today have scale, which they did not really have 10 to 15 years ago. So the HR function and professional HR, HR professionals there do have some maturity now. Most companies with scale have a strong HRMS in place, and from that extent, they do offer an opportunity for bolt-on startups. But more importantly, when I look at the Middle East, given the size of the Indian subcontinent population there, and the fact that there is a very healthy respect for Indian tech capabilities, the Gulf, especially the UAE, offers a perfect opportunity for Indian startups to test their products and value propositions in an international market which truly has an ethnic and diverse population. It's a great trial ground before you actually get into more competitive markets.
Fabulous. Now, the last question, Ashok, really is that there are multiple ways in which companies could expand globally. And one is obviously that you build your own team, you park them in strategic international markets. Now that would cost a lot of money, right? It also calls for a lot of focus, and it can take a lot of time. But the other way that companies are also doing are really looking at strategic partners. Partners who are doing something very aligned to what you do, who understand the lay of the land and who already have a significant reach in that particular market, and also can provide you constant inputs around the product and so on. Now, what in your opinion should be the mindset and some of the ingredients of an Indian HR tech startup to be able to run a successful partnership?
The success of a partnership is the ingredients that go into a successful partnership are not unique to HR tech. Okay, the ingredient is the same irrespective of what business you're in, and it starts with the founder, being open-minded, in terms of his or her communication and trusting a partner. Okay, that's fine. The second thing is you need to clearly recognize that your partner that you're investing in is your extended arm. You must ensure that your partner is fully informed, is fully up to date. Okay, so that's hugely critical. Three, you must leverage your partner to the fullest. It's about collaboration. I've often actually come across not the co-founders or the founders, but more people down the line in the team who sometimes start viewing the partners as competitors. Okay, and that's a no-no. So the onus is on the founders to ensure that the message of collaboration with their partners goes right across the organization, and how their own team members are compensated ensures that it does not bring in a conflict of competitiveness with partners. You must listen to your partners because they're on the ground.
Sure.
And to your point, a number of markets you can only be successful with partners. And UAE is a case in point. I mean, it's a market which is based on relationship. Okay, then you've got this thing of geography. You could be based in the US yourself, but given the size of the opportunity in the US, you may need partners in different parts of the US. So I think partnership is a very cost-effective and a very important ingredient for the success of any startup, Indian or otherwise.
So excellent, Ashok. It was wonderful having this conversation, and I think some fantastic views on what it takes for an Indian HR tech startup to actually scale internationally. So friends, thanks so much for watching hr2tech.com, and stay tuned for more.